Let's get Jeff Paterson, rink-wide Vancouver's Jeff Paterson, our Canucks reporter, into the conversation here. He's a presentation of your Pacific Toyota dealers. Jeff, down there at Rogers Arena, first your reaction to the day about nothing, sir.
Yeah, highly disappointing, but I suppose anybody that is born and raised in Vancouver, like I have been, and watched this team and have been covering it for 25 years, conditioned to disappointment. So on that level, at the very least, not a huge surprise. But in a seller's market, it felt like they had pieces to shop and are left with a roster that has underperformed and underwhelmed all season long, and I guess will continue for 21 more games.
Jeff, help us out. We had a little trouble with the Patrick Alvin audio. Did he flat say they were not interested in selling?
He said that they didn't like what they were offered, essentially. I didn't get a sense that he said they weren't interested in selling. He just said that they were underwhelmed by the prices that were being presented to them for their pending unrestricted free agents. Brock Boeser, I guess I understand if they had set a threshold that it had to be a first rounder plus, and maybe teams didn't come to the table with that. That's sort of a separate conversation to me. But when I see what did move and at what prices today, to think that they couldn't get a second-round pick at the very least for Pius Suter with his career-high 16 goals and his penalty-killing utility and low maintenance, just pro through and through,
and free cap hit. Basically, he's free on any cap. It's perplexing.
Yeah. So I just struggle, guys, to see the direction that this hockey club is in. The superpowers in the league have identified themselves for the remainder of this year. The Canucks aren't in that conversation. But every year that goes by, these teams that have been rebuilding and tanking and loading up for the future, and a team like the Anaheim Ducks is right there with the Vancouver Canucks. Their young players are going to continue to develop and get better, and they've got more pieces on the way. And here, the Vancouver Canucks, you don't have much on this roster. You certainly don't have much knocking on the door down in Abbotsford. I mean, a few of the guys that have are here now. And it's just, I find it difficult. I can see what they're trying to do defensively, and I'll give them credit for reshaping, reallocating some of their funds to the defense. And I think that with a healthy Quinn Hughes, you can sort of see what they're trying to do defensively. I think there's enough goaltending there, but my goodness, one of the lowest scoring teams in the National Hockey League for much of this season have already traded away JT Miller and are still struggling so mightily to put the puck in the net. I thought that this was an opportunity today. There are benchmark days throughout the hockey calendar where you have opportunities to address some needs, and the deadline comes and goes for the Vancouver Canucks, and here they are, still one of the lowest scoring teams in the National Hockey League, and it kind of feels like they're going to scuffle along in that position for a while still.
Rightly so. I think people are assuming this means that they have to now try to save some face by signing Brock Boeser. What do you think it does to the leverage of the Boeser camp, where they probably see and know that as well?
Well, I think they may have to patch up some relationships there. I mean, Patrick Alvin, maybe, I don't know if he was trying to be glib when he made the comment about, if I told you what I was offered for Brock, I'd have to run out of this room because you wouldn't believe me. I'm not sure that that's going to sit particularly well with the Boeser camp if you're in negotiations, and that's essentially you signaling that the league doesn't think all that highly of this player. Brock's been a pro through all of this. We talked to him the other day. He declined the opportunity to speak after the morning skate in the hours leading up to the deadline, and I think you can understand he'd
already spoken on it.
Yeah, exactly. There isn't a whole lot new to add there. So he will play. He'll stay and play for the remainder of this season, and then you see where it goes. But again, a team that struggles to put the puck in the net, he is one of their proven goal scorers, and has he underwhelmed a little bit here of late? Yeah, I think he's had a lot on his mind. I think that has played into it. He hasn't been terribly effective, and he hasn't put a puck in the net since scoring the winner against Toronto on February the 8th. Well, it's March the 7th, so I know there was a 2-week break in there for the schedule, but long overdue for one of their few true goal scorers to find his goal-scoring knack again here. And we'll see where it goes. Obviously, he's here till the remainder of the season. But he's in a position, I suppose, to walk on July the 1st, if that's what he and his camp choose. Patrick Alvin said they'll continue to discuss, and I would think you'll let it go quiet for a little while now. Like there's no pressure points, there's no hurry. He's going to play out the remainder of the season. So ultimately, we'll see where it winds up with Brock Boeser. But guys, I mean, they need Brock Boeser of last year or something close to that. They need obviously a whole lot more from Elias Paterson. Jake DeBrusk's the only guy that's really scored with any sort of regularity and consistency here. They just need so much more offensively. And Patrick Allin, I asked him the question about is he confident that they can be a playoff team being this low scoring? And he flipped the question and said, hey, we're one of the best defensive teams, best penalty kill. But then he conceded, are we going to be able to win every game 2-1? No, absolutely not. And that's the challenge for this group is when opponents do score 3 or 4, we've seen the Vancouver Canucks they don't have the arsenal to match that. And so they can try to defend their way to the playoffs, but it is going to be difficult. And it's going to be difficult starting tonight against the Minnesota team. And then Dallas comes in here on Sunday. Montreal Canadiens are rolling again. The schedule doesn't really let up for the Vancouver Canucks. So 21 to go. They're in a dogfight. I don't think any of the teams around them did anything that I would even consider. I mean, Calgary, I think, sat this one out. I'm not sure about did St. Louis. So it kind of feels like the dogfight that is the dogfight that still is here. And I guess may the best team win? Well, we'll find out. Somebody's getting that second wild card spot, and we'll see if it's the Vancouver Canucks.
Jeff, do we know if Chairman Aquilini was in the war room today?
No. I saw him here at the rink the other day for practice, but I have not seen him here today. And I don't know who all was inside the room.
Yeah. He has been in the past. He nixed a Kessler trade there once upon a deadline. Here's what I want to ask you, and I'd like to know if Allvin was asked this. And look, for all their faults, to their infinite credit, the Aquilini family has spent on hockey operations. Patrick Allvin began this season making these paper transactions up and down Abbotsford to accrue cap space. Jeff, they will end this season with $13.5 million in cap space.
To what end? Yeah.
That is mind-blowing to me.
Yeah, he was asked about it and said that they were interested in certainly trying to apply that in some way, whether that was being a broker and being a third party to be paid a small fee for that, or no. I mean, look, this is what I don't get about that, Matt, is that this team is struggling. We know Elias Pettersson's story. Quinn Hughes obviously isn't close to 100%. Is not playing tonight. You got all this money. Like, could you not have found an ineffective player elsewhere on an expiring contract, but a guy that could come in, maybe a guy that scored 20 in the past somewhere in the National Hockey League, just come in and bolster your lineup, give it the old Jussi Jokinen effect of a bunch of years ago where you have no intention of keeping a guy beyond this year, but with all this cap space and a team that's willing to spend, that is baffling to me.
And the message it sends to the group of, hey, here's a little extra something, a little extra help. And it just feels like they've been cut loose, and hopefully you find your way home, lost dog. You know, like it just seems like a really odd halfway point. Again, they are neither here nor there, Jeff. No one seems to know where the heck they are.
Right, and so this management group is now 3+ years on the job here, brought in to build this team into a contender. Got to Game 7 of the second round. It was fun while it lasted last year. That was the second round, and now this massive step back. Like a monumental step back to the point that I asked Patrick Allvin, like, how important is it that you make the playoffs? Because this is a guy that banged the table and said, I'm not happy we just got eliminated after 2 rounds. And he talked about the experience that young players can get from the playoffs. And there is some, like, I've got time for that argument to a point. But, guys, like, when you think of where they were last spring, if they flame all the way out of the playoffs here, and I get that it has been a season like any other that any of us has covered, with all the infighting, the injuries, just the inefficiencies at so many of the positions. That said, like, I don't think any of us thought that the Canucks were going to be in this 4-horse race with St. Louis, Utah, and Calgary for the second wild card position. So Patrick Allvin remains confident that they can be a playoff team at the very least, but ultimately this year, sneaking in as the second wild card and running into Winnipeg or Vegas in the first round, I'm not sure how much experience, I'm not sure how much time you're going to have to gain experience, because I don't think they'd last particularly long come playoff time. So Patrick Allvin was trying to put a positive face on, and again played up the one of the youngest teams in the National Hockey League, and the work that they've done getting some of these young players up from Abbotsford, and all that's fair. Like, he's not wrong in saying that, but that's not what this fan base wanted today. This fan base didn't want chest thumping about a few players that have developed down in Abbotsford. They wanted to see action. They saw an opportunity, and it feels like it skated right out the door.
What's the reaction in the arena tonight?
Do you get this? Did you get the sense today, Jeff, that he understood sort of honeymoon over with the fan base?
Yeah, and what's the reaction tonight?
I mean, I think the people that pay for tickets that come want to support this team on the ice. They want to see this team win. I'm not sure that you can fully gauge, but once they're in the building, if things go sideways, I mean, certainly we've seen enough jerseys on the ice over the years, and I'm not anticipating anything like that. But I mean, certainly online, it feels I can see it. Like, there's heat coming off my timeline. The people are angry, and rightfully so. It's just been, it may only be 3 years on the job for Jim Rutherford and Patrick Allvin, but it's 55 years for many of the true stakeholders, the fans. And not everybody's been a fan since day one, but I'm not sure that Jim Rutherford fully understood that when he was first introduced, that he was walking in, and yes, he wanted a fresh start, but sorry, you inherit the baggage of a fan base that has never celebrated a championship in this city. And so every year that goes by, I think the mounting frustration, the disappointment, and that's where I come back to, there are a few days in the year, trade deadline, July the 1st, where you can significantly alter the course of your hockey club. And guys, this is part of the problem now too, is they can have this money and be willing to spend it. You get to July 1st, you're locking in long-term contracts, overpayments. There's no guarantee you get your guy or the best guy, and then you find yourself bargain bin shopping again. Like, where is the elite talent to support? Like, they would point to Elias Paterson bouncing back. He's here. He made it through the trade deadline. Quinn Hughes getting healthy. But again, like, when those guys have been here this year and been healthy, it hasn't worked for this group. So they just need so much more. And yet roster remains intact.
Elias Paterson could save their ass here, guys, right? Like, if Elias Paterson somehow finds his game,
well, they need Elias Paterson
he
to save
saves their ass.
Because I'm not sure how much more you're getting from Quinn Hughes and Thatcher Demko in this season, given their state of injury. Have we asked Jeff about the centermen who have moved today and the potential for opportunity?
No.
Jeff, Bruce Garriock reports the Canucks were well down the road with the Senators on a Josh Norris trade. He goes for Dylan Cousins, who we had also talked about. Middlestat for Coyle, another center iceman for center iceman deal. Do you think something was lost here, and what is the big organizational target of a second-line centerman?
Yeah, absolutely. That's why I say I think, could they have made these deals earlier? Maybe, but this was fertile ground. Active general managers looking to move pieces, and the Canucks had pieces, but they've also, one thing that this management group has done well is take assets and flip them and address needs. And I kind of thought it was all coming together when Rantanen went to Dallas and Carolina was getting first-round picks, and you kind of thought, okay, one of those first rounds is going to come here, and then what do they do with that? Ultimately, that chain, got broken somewhere along the line, and yes, Rantanen went to Dallas, but Brock Boeser remains a Vancouver Canucks. So, I would say yes, Matt, that when I see some of those players moving, those are kinds of players, they may not put you over the top, but I do think for a team that is lacking down the middle, there were guys that could have improved the Vancouver Canucks at that position. So those are the sorts of moves that I look at and think, really, if those players were in play, how come the Vancouver Canucks weren't able to get into the game at all on any of those performers?
All right, Jeff, you've got rink wide tonight following the game against the Minnesota Wild. We got Patrick Johnston standing by there, the Province and Post Media. I know he's anxious to get on in, so thank you for this, my friend, and we will catch up on Monday after the game against Dallas.
Yeah, let's see what the weekend brings. Quickly, guys, Quinn Hughes, watched him skate this morning, about 20 minutes. Not a single shot, which tells you that limited in sort of that upper body range of motion. Was working on his skating, but not the least bit surprised that he's not playing tonight. And I know that the Canucks remain confident and hopeful, but That's maybe all it is, wishful thinking, because, see, he did not look like a guy that's anywhere close to 100%. And Patrick Allvin told us that this was a scheduled day off for Thatcher Demko. He thought he might be back at practice tomorrow. And by the way, tomorrow is March the 8th, 1 full month since we last saw Thatcher Demko in a Canucks uniform. So this injury has stretched out over a month.
I know he's been skating, so I understand the scheduled day off, but there have been a lot of days off for Thatcher Demko in this year. Thank you, Jeff.